Hello, Guardians. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I am one of your hosts, Corey Derrigan. Alongside me, as always, is my Avengers moment, Josh Finney.
Nope. Back to the drawing board.
Nope.
Nope.
Keeping it.
That did not work.
Keeping it. Keeping it.
Oh boy.
Leaving it there. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Corey.
Josh, I think we're both dying. You more than me, but I'm starting to feel it.
Yeah, my partner was sick last week. Whatever she had, I contracted at some point earlier this week, and I have pretty much been in bed for 2 days. Coughing up all kinds of nasty shit. Going through the stages of having a fever. It has not been an enjoyable couple of days around here. But I think I'm coming out the other side. I could not talk the last couple of days, really. My voice was very gone.
Yeah.
But I'm going to down this Gatorade while we're talking.
That's quite
And hopefully that'll energize me a little bit.
It should. It should. You know what they say about Gatorade, Josh? I don't. I was just kind of throwing it out there.
No.
Josh, we have a lot to talk about.
Oh my god, there's so much.
Since we recorded last, we got the story from the raid. We got the final mission. We got the Journeys codename Frontiers video that dropped, and we have this first part of episode Echoes, plus everything else.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So I don't know where you want to jump in, but we just, I don't know, throw a dart at the board while you're with your eyes closed, I guess. Don't hit Ronnie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we should just start at the top of this. Let's start with that final mission.
Yeah,
Because, man, what a special mission.
yeah. I mean, it was.
We can't really talk about it without first addressing the world's first race, though.
Yeah.
The longest race in Destiny history.
Yeah.
Just beating out Last Wish.
Yeah.
And only one clear in the first 24 hours.
Which is crazy. That's so crazy.
Wild. Absolutely wild. The team that actually finished first went back for a second clear on contest and still placed, I think, top 12 the second time around.
Jeez.
Taking their coach through. So I found that fascinating. I mean, hey, if you're the team that knows how to do it, you know how to do it, right?
Yeah.
A total unknown team came out and did it. And I think that made it really special. That, it's not someone we're accustomed to seeing in the community or someone who's won it like 15 times. Like, cool. It was somebody totally unique. I love the idea of that it, that's the canonical fire team that did it.
Yeah.
I love that. But man, as topsy-turvy as that raid is, and I'm not gonna speak too much on the raid because I have not actually run it yet. I have gone into the raid and I've gotten all the way up to the first encounter. I've not actually run anything though. I am hopefully, fingers crossed, running it Saturday afternoon. Provided, of course, that I'm not still dying. But
I believe in you, Josh.
The final mission, it's really cool. Like, so we talked about last week how they break it all down.
Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah, total spoilers. If you're listening to this, you should already be aware of that. The raid is sandwiched in to the campaign narrative. So the campaign, you've got the first 7 missions, and then there's a lot of shit that happens over the next couple of days. There's canonically 3 days between Mara's rescue and the Excision mission, which is the final mission. Well, not even just that, but with the start of the raid, really, with Salvation's Edge. And in that 3 days, all of the Lost Ghost quests happen, and the Still Hunt quest happens.
The Lost Ghost quest, by the way, shout out to those quests.
Have you done all of them?
I have 2 more.
Okay, I won't spoil anything, but the resolution from the final couple is outstanding. I'm waiting for them to put the last one in because it does appear that there's at least one more to go.
Yeah.
Some of the best world building that they have done, specifically around Cade and the well, new to folks who don't read the lore, character Micah 10.
Mm-hmm. Their their
Um,
their their conversations during those missions are awesome, and it brings a lot more depth to Cade in game. I would say. I mean, if you're into the lore, Cade is like a pretty deep character actually, but like it's pretty wild what they do with this character.
yeah, it's pretty interesting. We're gonna talk about that next week, so I want to give Corey a chance to finish it up. And for everybody else, because there's a lot of ghost quests, and that can take a lot of time. I think when Joe and I blew through them last week, it took us an entire afternoon to do them all, and we were just running them back to back to back. Um, but yeah, you have those 3 days. You go into this final mission, and it opens with maybe the best cutscene we've ever gotten.
Yeah.
Like, not even like, oh my god, it's like the best animated or anything, but it's just like it's like the most hyped that you've ever been.
Yeah.
Um, it's very sci-fi fantasy, right? Like very much a Last Stand. Like, Corey brought up the Avengers Endgame comparison. I liken it to the attack on the forces of Mordor from the end of Return of the King. Um, it is whatever epic fantasy battle you want. That's what this is reminiscent of. And man, seeing everyone there in that one scene. I mean, pretty much with the exception of fucking Devrim, I think everyone who's still alive that's an ally was there.
Who wasn't there? I mean, like
Devrim.
I saw people saying that Saladin wasn't there.
No, Saladin's there. He's with the Cabal.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I saw him back there. I was like, I think he's there, but he's just in the back.
Devrim and Sloane are the only two I believe that are not there that we would expect to fight that are not there.
Yeah, Hawthorne was Hawthorne there?
Yeah, Hawthorne makes a guest appearance.
Dang.
Nimbus,
Yeah,
Nimbus was there. I think Nimbus was the most surprising one for me. Like, oh, so the only protector of Neomuna totally left it to come hang out with us, come kick it with us.
Yeah,
okay,
why not? You know,
adds even more ridiculousness to the character. Savathun is just chilling there.
yeah,
I like the idea that they got Savathun to come along with it.
yeah,
But it really is a veritable who's who of characters in the Destiny universe.
yeah,
And I love that it's the Vanguard at the front with Crow.
yeah.
Crow's there too. And then, as Zavala is giving this epic speech, which you can't help but wish that you were hearing it from Lance Reddick.
I know.
But Keith David does such a phenomenal job in that scene.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, Keith David's voice is made for speeches like that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like, I mean, how many battle speeches we heard the Arbiter give over the years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then keep in mind, 3 days, guys. Zavala learns how to master stasis in 3 days.
Yeah, because there's a scene where he asks Psychor to teach him stasis at one point. So,
and he dives in encased in stasis, and it's great. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's awesome.
You love it. I was really hoping that Drifter would start calling out Primeval on the field and start just dropping and taking ogres fighting on our side. But what happens next is complete unbridled chaos. And it is the wackiest, funniest thing I've ever seen in a mission. The fact that this worked perfectly upon completion of the raid is actually nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah.
They actually clarify it a little bit in the TWAP. There's not much in the TWAP, so we're not really going to read from it today. But they clarify in there that weapon crafting, bounty progress, etc., do not catalyst progress, etc., do not take place in that mission to stabilize it as much as possible. But you are slaying out. You are fighting the forces of the Witness. I mean, House Salvation is there. You're fighting against them. You're fighting against the Shadow Legion, the Taken, the Soul Divisive of the Vex. Obviously, the Dread are there. the Scorn, like it is pretty much everything you can possibly imagine. And all the while, all these NPCs are running around with you. So Keitel and Mithrax are the two main ones running around with you, which I thought was really cool. There's threshers that are in the sky above you. Savathun is up there. They start bringing goodies for you too.
Hmm.
When you get into that second area, they start dropping I've seen synaptic spears. I have seen scorch cannon. I don't know what the fuck a scorch cannon is doing for you, but scorch
Scorching.
cannon, hive swords, and the not hammer of dawn
Yeah.
from Nightfall
Yeah.
all show up, and man, that the mission is so cool. Like, there's unlimited revives, which I think adds to the fun of it. Nobody would have enjoyed it if the regular version had like darkness
Yeah.
zones in it.
Yeah.
There is a grandmaster version of this mission launching next week,
Ooh.
which has been confirmed by one of the project leads to not be match made and will still support 12 players.
Jeez. Nice.
I very much look forward to seeing what reward comes out of this
Yeah.
because it's got to be a pretty cool reward to be able to get a 12-man fire team in there for that. That's competent enough to do it, I should say.
Yeah.
But of course, as cool as the mission is, you're literally destroying the witness from the inside with swords. Um, as cool as all that is. Also, we should make note that Saint 14 drops a bubble on the field for you.
Yeah.
I find it very funny that he's just chilling there the whole time.
Yeah. He's literally just making that bubble the entire time.
It is hilarious. Corey's dream of just having a continuous bubble up. Were you in the bubble wearing your helmet Saint
I
14, Corey?
Here's the thing, Josh. I did something really nerdy, Josh. I
Yeah,
transmogged all of my gear to look like the gear that I ended Destiny 1 in.
interesting.
And so I put on the Destiny 1 Iron Banner chest piece and gauntlets. I put on I forget which boots they were, but I also, yes, I did wear the helm of Saint 14, and I did take a screenshot of me with a sword inside the bubble with Saint 14.
Ridiculous. I think what comes after though is just maybe like 10-15 minutes of the most meaningful cutscenes we've ever gotten. Like I would hesitate on saying best, but most meaningful definitely fits the bill.
Yeah.
Um, it starts with obviously channeling the traveler's light through Ghost is such a cool moment too.
Hmm.
And seeing everybody just kamehamehaing at the witness is great. And then the cutscenes start, and Ghost turns to stone, falls to the ground. The Guardians, weeping over Ghost, and Cade kind of realizes what his whole purpose in coming back is.
Yeah.
What comes from the light returns to the light, and it's a really beautiful kind of parallel to his vision from the Traveler that he got in the third lost sector. And he sees Sundance there with them too. That's something I really love about this expansion is it gave humanity to the ghosts that aren't just ours.
Hmm.
We've had stuff from Glint in the past, sure, but not like, and we've had, like Finch. Okay, cool. But this felt really meaningful. It was really cool to see Targe and then Sundance, get to have actual meaningful moments and dialogue.
Hmm.
And Cade deciding to, because I think Cade knew, and it's implied in the ghost missions and in the post campaign content that Cade kind of knows he probably can't ever leave the Traveler,
Hmm.
that he is purely made of the light at this point, and he probably can't go back to the tower.
Hmm.
And so it's him, the Still Hut quest is really him kind of grappling with that new reality. That's part of why he makes Crow the Vanguard, right?
Yeah.
Him sacrificing himself so that the Guardian and Ghost can have what he wishes him and Sundance could still have is maybe the most powerful moment of the series.
Yeah. It was pretty. It made the entire thing personal, and I think that's what I really liked about this because
Yeah.
even though it was this huge epic conclusion to 10 years of Destiny, like they it still felt extremely personal. And
Yeah.
I actually went back and played probably half of the campaign again. And it turns out um cutscenes are quite important to the experience because remember last week I told you I had to go back and watch the cutscenes because I kept getting kicked and they kept
Mhm.
not playing for me. And it makes the entire experience much different when you watch them while you're playing. Uh, and so I really appreciate how personal this is for all of the, I would say, the main four characters that the story revolves around, right? Like Cade, uh, uh, Crow, Zavala, Ikora, and Ghost. To an extent too. Um,
Ghost more than Ikora. I still feel like Ikora didn't have anything to do.
well, I mean, my point is like I just like how personal everything felt during the course of this huge epic ending. Um, and so I don't know, man. Yeah, I agree with you though. The Cade stuff was, I don't know. I definitely teared up quite a bit. I don't know about you, but I definitely did.
Yeah, I got pretty emotional. I mean, part of that's because it was 7:30 in the morning and I had stayed up watching the raid race. Um, but I got really emotional in that moment. Um, I'd kind of seen it coming.
Yeah,
Um, I had been sharing throughout the campaign when I was playing it with Joe and John that I felt like they were setting it up for both Ghost and Cade to not make it out of the story.
yeah,
And obviously, Ghost was going to have to somehow because, microtransactions, as cynical as that sounds.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I think that, and it's funny because I think it was handled the best way it could have with Cade, because I do think you would have had a problem of, well, how do we move the franchise forward? Because Cade is such an iconic character to it. He's arguably the most known character in the series.
yeah,
How do you move on when it's been set up so clearly for Crow to be the new Hunter Vanguard?
yeah,
And it's been set up for several years now. We've been building to this, you know, I don't know, crescendo for him to either be the Hunter Vanguard or to be the speaker. And, you start playing the Lost Ghost Quest and you're like, oh, well, we know who the next speaker is going to be. So I thought it was really cool. What I love is what comes after. There's a scene back in the last city where everybody is lighting lanterns and it's the new Vanguard waiting for the Guardian. There's little mini Cabal pups running around with
hmm
the human kids and the small one, and that is just such a great little scene. I don't think they knew how to make like infant Cabal, so I thought that was actually really great. It's a nice little full circle moment to the original concept art that we had of the city from D2 Vanilla
yeah,
that you still see on some of the loading screens occasionally of the kids lighting the lanterns.
yeah,
I choose to see that as Cade's funeral.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, what else would you? I mean, what else would you take it as?
well, I mean, it's the whole city lighting lanterns. So
Yeah,
I choose to imagine that I can't imagine like coming back and being like, oh, yeah, by the way, Cade Six, he died. He came back to life inside of the big ball in the sky and he died again.
yeah,
I can't imagine like the logistics of trying to explain that. Um, I did find it very funny that you see Archie, um, Elsie, and Anna during all this.
yeah,
It's like, okay, that's really random. Why not show everybody?
yeah,
Um, but it focusing on Cade's statue in the courtyard was really really cool. I like to think that it was just like kind of like this celebration, like at the end of Return of the Jedi, when Luke burns his father's body and everybody's sitting here lighting off fucking fireworks, right?
hmm
I like to think that for the Vanguard and their allies, it's the funeral of Cade, and for everybody else, it's, hey, we fucking won.
yeah,
We fucking won, man. Um, the sketched out cutscene afterwards, though, that kind of shows everyone's immediate future, I thought was probably the best of these cutscenes,
yeah,
because not only does it show what's in their immediate future, but it also shows what's in our immediate future. It teases the events of the next couple of episodes that we have.
hmm
Um, I think, there's a couple of images in here that I really love. The Bray sisters exploring with Archie is one. Um, Failsafe and the Vex was one. Zivu Arath clearly picking up what looks to be the Sword of Oryx. Um, Spider and Fickrel are in a scene together. We're assuming Ido and Mithrax are in a scene. I believe that's the two of them. She's approaching him.
Yeah.
Mara and Crow seemingly having a new relationship together and with Children of the Reef.
Hmm.
The Vanguard actually being a fire team. We always heard about how they're this great fire team, and we never ever saw them together. And we've already seen in 2 shots, we see more of them being a fire team than we did in 10 years.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. I love it.
Awesome.
It's fantastic. Ikora learning how to use strands of all using stasis. They're clearly doing it to Shax's workout tapes in the office. Um, Before I get to the last scene, though, which is, maybe the perfect cap off to a series ever.
Yeah.
Can I say that I'm a little frustrated at one character's lack of storyline over 10 years?
Wow. Which character is
Shax's lack of story is
that?
shocking. Yes, I know that there's extensive story in the lore, but in terms of him actually being an on-screen character,
Yeah, he's
I'm
pretty
sorry.
non-existent.
It's long past the point where we need to recast it. We need to recast the role because yeah, we got some stuff in Brave and this and that, but you can't tell me that there wasn't a point for him to help us get armored up for the final battle.
Right.
You can't tell me that there's no like they're not even like pretending at this point like, oh yeah, let's not even bother teasing him. We're gonna show Drifter, Eris, and like Emaru hanging out, but
Yeah.
we're gonna show Saladin teaching Keitel how to knit, but we're
Yeah.
not gonna show Shax here. Devrim's fucking church is still there, by the way. Did somebody tell him the war is over? I don't know. I mean, my man is still saying voice lines about the EDZ and the Red Legion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, at
I mean,
some point, that needs to be addressed.
even in Into the Light, he was still saying stuff from Vanilla. Like,
I mean, most of that stuff is just reused too.
I know.
So,
Um,
as much as I love this ending, those are just like some real little nitpicks. The actual final scene of whoever you played the mission with
yeah.
sitting with them on the helm. It'll only show 2 other fire team members because we played it in a group of 4, and Joe and I both saw Fox and each other. None of us had John in ours,
Mm.
but John had both Joe and myself. So I thought that was very cool. Um, just kind of kicking it there. I thought that was really cool. And then that very clearly sets up what are echoes, what is the content for the next year going to be like, and it was a really nice just bow on
Yeah.
this storyline. And if there was nothing else coming, it would be a really nice bow on the franchise, I think,
Yeah.
to end right there.
Yeah.
But this is Destiny, and nothing is ever truly over, because they immediately launched back in and gave us brand new content after that.
Yeah, they did. Um, yeah. So Echoes, right? So I assume you played the story part at least.
I did. I wasn't even going to talk echoes today, frankly.
Oh, okay.
I was going to save it till next week because there's just so much relating to the end of the storyline, to the secret missions that we've had pop up. We were going to rank the campaigns tonight.
Yeah.
We we got some stuff. We've got all the time in the world to talk about echoes, as far as I'm concerned. Which also off to a banger start.
Yeah.
But I've got some reservations about this model that I want to get into at a later time. With this conclusion taken into mind, Corey, let's get into our rankings of the campaigns.
Yes. Let me pull up my list, Josh. I made a
Pull up
list.
your list. We're gonna talk. We're gonna do campaign rankings. We're give any final thoughts on the finals on the ending of the final shape. we're going to talk the future of Destiny 2, which we got revealed to us Monday morning. And then before we get into questions, we've got a maybe the best exotic mission they've ever done to talk about. So, all right, campaign rankings. For clarification, this is every major release that they've done. What's a major release? If you paid $20 or more for it, it's a major release, excluding the 30th anniversary, because there's no storyline.
Right.
So yes, that means that Dark Below, House of Wolves, Curse of Osiris, and Warmind are included in this.
Yes. Let me.
That is 14 storylines for us to rank, by the way.
Yep.
This is
14.
just what is in the base release. All right. Number 14. I think we both have the exact same one in last place.
What's your last one, Josh?
It's Curse of Osiris.
Yeah, Curse of Osiris, pretty bad.
It's pretty fucking bad. If there was an F tier, this would be in the F tier.
Yeah,
it's bad. It's so bad that it made me stop playing Destiny 2 a second time.
Jeez.
It's bad. It's bad. I mean,
No,
Luke Smith himself
really
has even said that the reception to it was so poor he wondered if they were even going to get to make like another year or two of this game. So, it's terrible. It's bad. There's not a lot of redeeming factors to it. Introduced raid layers, which are also an abysmal thing. Yeah, all around just really, really poor. Really, really poor. The redeeming factor is I actually really like both the strikes that you get out of this. I don't like that you have to trek through that infinite forest bullshit.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, like, I don't even know how to describe how bad it was. And like once it was over, I was like, "Is this it? Is this?" And then like I still think Mercury is a pretty terrible location.
I mean, it's basically just a public event. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. Brother Vance is there though. Oh man, I forgot. Nope, moving it up a spot. Brother Vance is there. Best campaign.
I hate you so much. At number 13, I've got Dark Below.
Yeah, that's where I also have Dark
Below. I debated between this and the next one. Purely because I do like that the storyline for this ends in Crota's End.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's also pretty rough. Crota's End is the highlight, but I mean, it also gave us the Omnigul strike, which got crutched onto for the next 9 years. I don't know. I don't think that it's like that big of a deal. It's like, okay, fine, it is what it is.
It's. I mean, I don't know. I think when they revamped it, when the Taken King came out, and integrating that and House of Wolves into the main campaign, like it was a little bit better, but it was still pretty bad.
It was still pretty bad. At number 12, I've got House of Wolves.
I think this is where we differ.
Yep.
I have the vanilla campaign of D1 in here.
I know that we've both professed that we like House of Wolves. The more that I sat down and thought about the actual storyline, though, it's 3 missions.
Yeah.
I can't put that any higher. It's 3 missions. There's no strike that ties into it, really. Prison of Elders doesn't advance the story at all. I'm really bummed out that I have to put this low. I toyed with putting it lower based purely on a storytelling perspective.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And that's a shame because I really do. I like the idea of House of Wolves more than I actually like. It was their first stab at a Fallen themed season / expansion.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It left a really sour taste in my mouth.
But Josh, we got Skolas out of it.
No, who fucking cares?
I mean, if Prison of Elders wasn't part of this, I probably would have it lower. But Prison of Elders is still one of my favorite in-game events, just because.
I mean, that's fair.
Kind of mindless and fun and whatever. But Skolas can go fuck himself.
Yeah, it's not great. I have got. I just lost my list. I've got Shadowkeep at number 11.
That's where I have Shadowkeep as well.
Shadowkeep is bad.
Yeah, Shadowkeep is really bad.
For my money, I know that you had D1 vanilla lower than this. I've got Shadowkeep here. For me, it's the worst major thing we've ever paid for. D1 vanilla gets benefit of the doubt purely because of the Vault of Glass.
Yeah.
And the fact that it kicked everything off. For me, it gets a little bit of deference. By Shadowkeep, they should have known better. Also, Shadowkeep was coming off of the incredible Forsaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We went from Forsaken in its year of content to Shadowkeep in its year of content, which was not great.
Yeah.
And this is, keep in mind, this is just for the base expansion. I'm not taking into account Dawn or Arrivals or anything like that.
Yeah.
With those, it would have elevated it above D1 for me probably.
Yeah.
But man, this campaign is it's bad.
Yeah. No,
It's bad.
it's
I
really
think
bad.
it's the last truly bad campaign that we had.
Yeah.
We would still have a lackluster campaign or two after this, but it was outright. I mean, it was outright bad. After you get past the shock value of that first mission,
Yeah.
because it starts out and you're assaulting the moon, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is really cool."
Yeah, and then the pyramid revealed.
And then you see the fucking pyramid, and you're like, "Oh shit, they're actually here."
Yeah.
Like, the pyramids are here, man. And that was back when we still didn't really know about them. The end of the campaign has never sat well with me. The raid doesn't sit well with me. One strike, it was, and probably the worst dungeon.
Yeah, it was.
Pit of Heresy.
Yeah.
I think it's like my least favorite
I
dungeon.
hate Pit of Heresy. Especially that opening section where you have to like do the symbols or whatever. Like it just I can't stand Pit of Heresy.
I wouldn't say I hate it. I think it's definitely less tedious than like Ghost of the Deep, but it's not an enjoyable experience to me.
I'm
I
just
don't
saying
think
there's
that
like 6 or 7 better dungeons now.
I don't think Shadowkeep tells a very good story.
No.
Because it doesn't really tell much of a story. It tells a story that it's funny. Like now, we would look at it and be like, "Oh, that's a seasonal story with Eris."
Yeah.
You know, Eris getting over the trauma of losing her fire team really is packed into the Xenophage quest, and like the nightmares get retconned into being a part of Nezarec and this and that, and like an untapped power of the darkness, and it's just all this ridiculous stuff. I don't think it works.
No.
I don't think it works. I don't think Shadowkeep's a good expansion.
No. I
Number 10, I got the U1 vanilla.
number 10 I have House of Wolves.
Okay.
So
For all the reasons that we've already said.
yeah.
D1 vanilla, you guys have heard me rant about this enough. I'm not gonna go into it anymore. Either you agree or you don't. I don't really care at this point. D1 vanilla is not good.
Yeah.
From here on up, I think we're kind of in the like lukewarm area.
Yeah.
My 6 through 9, I would say, are all like kind of in the lukewarm area.
Mm-hmm.
I would even argue that maybe up to number 5 are. Number 9, I got Warmind.
That's exactly where I have Warmind.
I've got Warmind. I think it's the best of the 4 mini expansions. The 2 strikes are awesome, in my opinion. I actually really like Spire of Stars, which is the raid layer associated with this, even though it has nothing to do with the expansion whatsoever.
Of course not.
Escalation Protocol is still one of the best events they've ever done.
Yeah.
Even if the matchmaking for it was really wonky. We got the Whisper of the Worm quest out of this. So many beloved things from D2 came from this. This was my jumping on point.
Yeah, the Ikelos weapon set was also pretty good for the most part.
Yep. This is where Ikelos SMG and Shoddy came in for the very first time. Obviously Sniper and hand cannon, but
yeah.
Very cool. Sleeper Stimulant came back for this. I actually really like Warmind. I have a very soft spot in my heart for Warmind. It's the best. No. We also started getting the seeds planted that that Uldren had survived, and of course, people found those seeds obviously right before the reveal of Forsaken, and it was like, oh shit, okay, so he crashed on Mars and then made his way back. Number 8, I've got Lightfall.
Yep, that's where I have Lightfall. It's number 8. I wonder if our list is the same all the way up the rest of this.
I don't think it is. I think I've got at least one area where I differ from you.
That's fair.
Yeah, Lightfall. No need to go into it. Listen to the last year and a half of content. It's not good. It's not bad. For everything that it did good, it did two things wrong, I think.
Yeah.
If it had come along earlier in D2's life cycle, I think we would have all been more forgiving.
Yeah. If this
But the
if this
fact
was the if
is,
this was the style of expansion that came after Vanilla D1, I think we would have been okay with it.
I think
Or
we would have
D2,
even been okay if
I
this
mean
had come
D2.
out in place of Shadowkeep. I think we would have been okay.
So,
I think it's the fact that it was coming off of an incredible year of content with Witch Queen.
yeah.
Because you had Witch Queen, you had Risen, Haunted. We don't talk about Plunder. Plunder never happened. And then
Pirates though.
you had the incredible season of the Seraph leading straight into this. New
Pirates.
subclasses were coming, and it just lands like a wet paper bag. Callus was not an intimidating villain at
Oh
all.
my gosh, he
It
was
felt
so
like they didn't
stupid.
really know what to do with Callus's character by the end.
Yeah. Callus was so stupid.
Um,
Oh, he was the worst.
I actually really think that Callus would have been more effective if they would have held him to be a mid-campaign boss in the final shape.
Yeah, it just I mean
Unpopular opinion. I think he actually would have landed harder.
I mean, technically, I guess you could say that that's kind of what he was because they split this expansion in half.
Yeah, so I want to get to that when we get to where we rank the final shape, but all I'm going to say about that is that after playing both of these, I don't know how they ever thought they were going to get this story into one expansion.
Yeah,
That's cute that y'all thought that. Because they couldn't be any more different narratively.
I almost feel like Lightfall feels more at home with the Witch Queen in a way. Like,
I mean, well, at this point, we've pretty much determined that Strand was supposed to be part of Witch Queen, and it simply wasn't ready to launch.
yeah,
And so they decided to go with the 3.0s instead. And it's frustrating because Lightfall clearly wasn't fleshed out enough to be an actual expansion, but they needed the extra time, one, to make sure everything worked for the final shape, but two, they kind of needed that seasonal content
hmm
ever so slightly to explain how we get into the Traveler.
hmm
You probably could have done it with 2 seasons,
yeah.
but I think the moral of the story is when they are given time to cook, good things happen. At number 7, I've got Rise of Iron.
I have Red War at number 7.
You have what? You have what here?
Red War.
Okay, yeah, we differ here. I'm not a big Rise of Iron fan. I genuinely wanted to put it lower, but I couldn't in good conscience do that. I have the same problem here that I have with a lot of the stuff below here. It's a very short campaign. It's like 4 missions. The thing really saving it for me is the strikes that they did, the new strikes they do in this, with the revamped Sepix Prime and all that.
hmm
Sepix Perfected is one of the best music tracks in the series.
Yeah.
And Wrath of the Machine and Outbreak Prime do so much heavy lifting for me here.
Oh my gosh, yeah, dude. I mean, Wrath of the Machine is like one of my favorite raids of and I know it's not like an amazing raid, but
I mean,
it's so
it's
fun.
consistently considered one of the best, if not the best.
And I really loved the like solving that binary puzzle for Outbreak Prime. Like it was
Yeah.
so fun solving that with my fire team and it was awesome. The Plaguelands okay area, but like yeah, the strikes and Fellwinter's Peak and like learning about the lore of the Iron Lords and the raid and the weapon did it all. And then putting together Gallarhorn again was pretty
Yeah, the
cool.
Gallahorn mission is pretty awesome in this.
Yeah. So uh but the Red War, like to me it was fine. Like it was a fun campaign, but I didn't really feel like I needed to keep playing after the campaign.
Nope.
Uh
I completely agree.
the only reason why I kept playing is because we wanted to do the raid, and like I was like, well, I got to grind out for the raid, so I might as well just keep playing.
I like the Leviathan raid. It's just it felt very disconnected with the expansion, which by that point we'd kind of gotten used to. If an in-game activity is put in, it's going to tie into the expansion at least.
Yeah,
And yes, it was a Cabal raid, but it didn't really make sense in the span of it. And then they made it worse by giving us like 4 more Leviathan raids.
yeah.
Um, at number 6, I have D2 Vanilla. So
Number 6, I have Beyond Light.
Oh wow, you really do have Rise of Iron up there.
Yeah, Rise of Iron's my number 5. But
Oh
yeah, Beyond Light, like it was. I don't know. I think I tie a lot of that though to our like this show in particular, like us starting the show before it came out and getting pretty excited for it, and like the stasis powers for the first time showing it off, and us kind of reacting to it. And uh, I think the campaign is a little meh, but
yeah,
Deepstone Crypt is awesome. Those weapons are awesome. The the Deepstone Lullaby is like my favorite track in Destiny. I think at this point, I love that track so much.
yeah. I think the biggest problem with Beyond Light ultimately becomes the unlocking of stasis, which is a big knock I have against Lightfall as well. It's just the solution to not letting us have the power, like when we first encounter it, is
Yeah,
stasis and strand tummy aches,
yeah,
and it just doesn't really work for me. It doesn't land for me at all.
tummy
Um,
aches. Jeez.
and I just think that Aramis is not an engaging villain at all.
No, no, definitely not.
Aramis is maybe the easiest final boss of a Destiny campaign ever,
Yeah, maybe
especially
I would argue yes.
when you compare her to everything that came after. It's like, oh,
I mean, you compare that to the Savathun campaign the year later, like, oh my god.
oh, that's what I'm getting at. It's like, oh, it's totally different. Um,
I mean, even the Callus fight was hard. Uh,
yeah. Oh, and the Callus fight was hard because it was forcing you to use Strand.
yeah,
I mean, yes, you could use other things, but it was just like Jesus Christ. And it was really only hard on Legend. On normal, you just run up and just beat the shit out of him with a sword if you want to. Um, I've got Beyond Light at number 5 for what it's worth.
that's. I mean, that's fair.
What? Because I mean, like 5, 6, and 7 are just like all kind of jumbled together for us. It feels.
Yeah,
What's your number 5?
my number 5 is Rise of Iron.
Okay,
I really
so we do have the same top 4, and I have a feeling that we have them in the same order.
yeah maybe yeah maybe I'll
Number 4, number 4, Corey. I've got the Taken King.
yep, that's where I have it.
I I went back and thought about it, and I could not, in good conscience, put this any higher. I love the Taken
Yeah,
King. I've spoken at length about how King's Fall is maybe my favorite Destiny activity of all time.
yep,
You cannot put it above the Golden Three at this point.
no,
I would even argue that Forsaken can't even belong to the top two. Um, the Taken King is it's the best D1 story by a mile. It's the best D1 content we've ever gotten. It's not even
the
close.
best location in D1 in my opinion.
It's maybe the most aggravating location in D1. I love the Dreadnought, but it's very annoying to traverse.
Yeah,
Um, but it was an example. I think so many of us hold D1 or hold the Taken King in such high regard because we know that's what Destiny 1 was supposed to be.
yeah,
And we know that the Dreadnought was cut content from vanilla D1, really showing that they had no direction for D1.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's just I don't know. I think the idea of making Eris and Cade the two central NPCs was very, very important early on.
hmm
Um, it really drives the story's emotional beat. Introducing the Books of Sorrow, which we now know the Books of Sorrow were written by Oryx to the Witness,
yeah.
which is just wild to think
I
about.
know, it's so crazy.
It's a bit of a retcon. Don't get me wrong, but
Well, yeah. Well,
I think
most of Destiny is retconned at this point.
Destiny is a huge retcon. All right,
Uh,
top 3, Corey.
oh man. So yeah,
What do you got at number
my
3?
number 3 is Forsaken.
Yep, we've got the exact same top 3 then.
Yep.
Forsaken, for all the reasons that we've said before that we love. I won't say I've soured on Forsaken, but I don't think that Forsaken has been the golden standard for a little while now.
Yeah, and I think it. I wonder if it would change places if we could actually play through it again at this point.
I actually don't think so. I was thinking back to it, and I watched some gameplay of the Forsaken campaign this week. I don't think I would have. I don't think I'd go back on it. I think the Baron hunts were interesting.
Yeah, it created a non-linear campaign, which was pretty cool. Like, I mean, in a different type of way than they had been, right? Because like, I mean,
It did.
the non-linearity of the Red War was like, oh, let's go place some patrol points down, you know.
Yeah.
And this one was like, oh, well, just go fight another boss that's different. Um, so I really liked Forsaken, um, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I think Forsaken is good. Forsaken's really good. Like I'm not trying to say it's not. It's definitely A tier.
Hmm.
Um, I think that and The Taken King are like firmly in the A tier.
Hmm.
But and it's funny because I've seen this sentiment from multiple developers at Bungie who joined after Forsaken shipped, and they said that for years it was talked about in like these whispered, hushed tones of like, oh man, this content is good, but it's not Forsaken good. Like, oh my god, like we Forsaken was the golden standard for better or for worse, and that so many of them feel like they finally have now hit that standard.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence that I mean Forsaken saved Destiny as a
Oh
franchise. Let's
yeah.
not get it twisted here. That in the year of content that followed maybe is still the most consistent year of content we've ever gotten.
Hmm. I mean, and it set up so many important story points. I mean, Crow is like, I mean, that story is so important.
Having killing off your best known character and your most liked character to save your franchise is a very bold move.
And to bring in
Bungie
arguably one
has
of the,
done this for years though. I mean, never forget how they kept it a secret that you would play as the Arbiter until you actually played Halo 2.
yeah,
And people derided it at the time, and now it's like, oh my god, we fucking love the Arbiter.
yeah,
Like, it's kind of how I felt with Forsaken. Like, I was so angry with them for killing Cade, and then I played the story, and I was like, damn, this is really good.
hmm,
I will say my one major knock against this expansion is the Tangled Shore sucks. I was not sad at all to see that go to the vault.
yeah. But the Dreaming City is still pretty.
The Dreaming City equals it out. We got our first dungeon with the Shattered Throne,
Hmm.
which is what I maintain the raid layers should have been all along as dungeons.
Yeah, and I still think maybe that's what they were intending the raid layers to be, and then they just kind of shifted their
Yeah.
perspectives and their.
Well, and then you get the creme de la creme. What by my money is still a top 2 raid in the game. Obviously, this is without me having done Salvation's Edge yet. Last Wish is a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. It is the fact that they made that in 2008 or 2018 is insane to me. We went in the span of 1 year. We went from the Leviathan, Eater of Worlds, and Spire of Stars to Last Wish.
Yeah,
That's where it felt like the raids stopped being like this, oh, it's just a really cool end game pursuit, and like, oh, if you're a Destiny fan, you're gonna play them, but if you're not in Destiny's inner circle, like you don't really care about them. The raid race for Last Wish is where it became like this gaming phenomenon.
yeah,
That is where I had friends who had never even heard of Destiny before being like, dude, are you watching this? Like, we know you play Destiny. Are you watching this? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? Like this is what a raid is like. Yeah. And this is more intricate than anything we'd ever done
yeah,
up to that point. So it changed the status quo forever, which is part of why I think Light or Shadowkeep is so low on my list, is because they would spend the next couple of years chasing that high again.
yeah.
Until number 2,
Yep,
The Witch Queen.
yep,
For all the reasons that we've ever said on this show, The Witch Queen's a masterpiece.
yep.
Masterpiece. It's got the best raid in the series, in my opinion, with Vow. Um,
The raid's awesome.
the raid is awesome. I think the location is very intriguing. I like the idea of using deep sight to find hidden paths. It was like the Dreaming City on crack.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Um,
I,
the story, it's the second best campaign.
oh yeah,
The revelations you get in that campaign though are not topped in anything else in Destiny.
no, that I mean that reveal is there's nothing
Mhm.
like it. There's nothing else like it
There's nothing like it.
because they kept it a
That
secret.
final fight is insane.
They kept it a secret. That's what was so cool. Like, I mean, that's insane. It was so crazy that they kept that a secret.
It was very cool that was kept a secret. because the whole question was, well, how on earth did they steal the light? And then you get the truth in the back third of the campaign of they were given it. So, and obviously, still fallout from that revelation still happening.
Yep.
Some intriguing dialogue from Micah 10 regarding that in these Lost Ghost
Yeah.
quests and in some of the overthrow activities where she's bantering with Savathun,
Hmm.
saying that the traveler regrets giving you its light.
Yeah.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating to think about. Which leaves us number one, should be no surprise. It's the final shape.
Yeah. This is so. Like I said, I went and replayed the first half of this campaign because that's where I got booted the most. It hits so hard, man. This whole thing, like the whole walkout moment, like the whole like returning to the original tower, the whole Cade playing the harmonica. Like I almost wish they would have kept that a secret. I mean, I know why they couldn't for a lot of reasons, but like, man, imagine if you didn't know Cade was back and you walked out and you just saw him playing the harmonica there. Like this campaign is so good. It's I mean, I think I don't know if I'm exaggerating when I say I think it might be the best campaign I've ever played from Bungie.
I'm not going to go that far. It is far and away the best Destiny campaign. Um, I think it stands up there alongside the Halo trilogy, but I have a really hard time saying that this is an overall better story than Halo 2 or 3. And I think part of the reason why I think we want to put it up there, and it's just like my own personal theory, is we've had 10 years to grow with these characters, whereas like with Halo 2 and 3, you had like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Um, there's so much more lore. There's been so many seasons and expansions, and I think just like storytelling has evolved as a medium in that time. Um, that being said, this is undoubtedly their best work since Halo 3. I don't think that's a controversial opinion at all. It might be depending on your opinion of Halo Reach. I personally don't hold Reach in that high of regard, like everybody else seems to. Um, but for it to be your best work as a studio in about 19 years is a pretty wild thing to think about.
Yeah.
Um, I've talked a lot about how I think Halo 2 is, the best game ever made. If not the best, it's one of the best. And I think there's finally a Destiny release that I feel comfortable putting on my favorite games ever made list. We're 10 days in. The sheer amount of content that is here, the sheer amount of just story content alone
Yeah.
automatically puts it at number one for me. This is the definition of not just sticking the landing. This is they backed in blind, parallel parked it, and didn't have to get out to readjust 15 times. They didn't need the backup mirror, nothing.
Hmm.
They just did it. And it's like the equivalent of trying to parallel park a semi truck on the streets of San Francisco, I think. I think everyone knew the expectations that were going around about this, the words that were being whispered, especially after the layoffs last fall,
Oh yeah.
and the word that, well, if this doesn't perform well, like both sales and reviews wise, like that may be it for Bungie. Sony's going to step in and take control. Now I think Sony genuinely has to look at this and be like, we can't step in and take control after this.
Yeah.
I do still think they'll probably push for leadership changes because it's more clear than ever that Pete Parsons needs to be gone.
Yeah.
But this is what happens when you give your creatives time to cook. And I really hope that's the message that Sony takes away from this. I hope they see what happened when Bungie took a year and a half to make the Witch Queen, what happened when they took a year and a half to make the final shape. And the final shape, by all accounts, came in hot.
Yeah.
I've grown more and more to believe that the delay was to make sure that Prismatic actually worked and didn't just break the entire game. But I really hope that going forward, they don't tie Destiny down to being we have to get an expansion out every 12 months. I understand the pressure to do that from a shareholder perspective. I really hope Sony sees this and says, you know what, you guys take your time
Hmm.
and you release an expansion when you're ready. World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14 are on like 2-year cycles, for example.
Hmm.
I think 18 to 20 months is probably the perfect amount of time. The problem, of course, is how do you balance that with delivering content and keeping your monthly active users up?
Yeah.
That's the big question. I think it'll be a little bit easier for Bungie once Marathon's out the door. They won't feel as pressured because, oh, we have another product making money,
Yeah.
right? And now they're underneath the Sony umbrella. So yeah, Sony wants content out there, but if they're smart and they're watching the reviews of this, it's got like a 95 on Metacritic right now, man.
Yeah.
Like,
It's so crazy, man.
yeah, I mean, and there should be some context given. It's 11 reviews, hasn't been reviewed nearly as much as something like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But it is, by any metric, it is quote unquote the best reviewed game of the year. Um,
It's by far the best reviewed Destiny campaign or
that
Destiny
it
expansion.
feels like it is like the final shape feels like Destiny is finally living up to all the lofty promises we were made 11 years ago
Yeah.
when they first showed the gameplay footage at E3.
Yep.
It feels like we are finally getting delivered on the promises of playing with your friends, an ever evolving world, consequences in that world, storytelling, loot, special missions, etc. Like it feels like we finally have gotten to that point.
Yep.
And I'm going to be really, really sad if we go back on this because now, guess what? Yeah, you delivered an incredible expansion. This is the gold standard now.
Yeah.
Like, I think I speak for everybody when I say if we go back to like beyond light level expansions, we're all going to be mad.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying like, oh, it's got to be some big universe ending threat every time. Like, bigger threats don't make for a better story
Right.
all the time.
No, but there's got to.
They had a Herculean task going into this after the disappointment of Lightfall,
Yeah.
and they nailed it. The Witness is an imposing villain. It's a villain with plenty of characterization, I feel. It is they give life to the Vanguard that we haven't really seen outside of Zavala in so long.
Right.
You know, and even Zavala, when's the last time we really got Zavala story? Haunted?
Yeah. I don't know,
You
man.
know?
Amanda, they still they still pushed
I'm
Amanda pretty hard in this.
I'm so fucking tired of that, dude. Like the fact that she's in like one of the final cutscenes of the whole game is like,
Do you
okay.
think it's because she's in that opening cutscene where they're like building the tower in D1? What or
I don't know. I think they clearly wanted to recreate the shock of Cade dying,
yeah,
and they picked a character no one really cared about.
yeah,
I maintain it would have been a whole lot like bigger if they would have gone and killed like Osiris or something.
yeah,
That would have felt like an actual loss.
yeah,
Instead it was like, okay, who can we kill that we don't really use
right.
that it will seem like we're losing somebody but we're really not because she didn't do anything in the tower. She wasn't a vendor for anything, so we don't have to rewrite any
Whoa, you could
systems.
buy your green ships, your green sparrows there, buddy.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous, man. I don't know. I just whatever.
Yeah, it was.
But by and by, this is the best campaign they've delivered in Destiny pretty easily.
Yeah,
I think we're 10 days in and I can pretty safely say it's the best expansion overall.
yeah,
Um and I'm saying that without even having played the raid myself, but having watched enough of the raid,
yeah.
having watched the whole thing, having watched the encounters.
I've heard enough people say that this raid makes all the other raids look silly. And not that
Yeah, it's the only one that compares to Last Wish is the phrase I've heard several times.
yeah, and not that I'm like gonna take that, you know, 1,000% of the time, but like the fact that I've seen multiple people that I don't know, I would say I trust in when playing Destiny is like, okay, well, this raid must be really good. I also
Yeah,
hear it's like really
that's
hard, like just in general.
it's very challenging for sure.
So, but yeah, I agree. I think this is definitely I feel safe saying that this is the best expansion.
Yeah.
for sure.
And we haven't even gotten into like half of the exotic missions either.
Yeah.
Like we haven't even discussed those yet. And just go put a bow on it. This is the best.
You mean the exotic sword with wolf pack rounds? Or
Oh my god. We need to talk at length about Ergo some when I have more of a voice.
yeah.
I'm being very selective right now. I have like 7 rolls of this sword I'm very excited to bring to the table next week. Will
It's
give us time to build up plenty of rolls on the sword. If you've not gone and done Destined Heroes yet, go do it because Ergo Sum is awesome. They said that the idea for Ergo Sum was born out of the crafting from last year, and I think that's just absolutely
that's
hilarious.
awesome though that they took that idea that and then they just made it
Yeah.
into something for the game. That's cool.
Speaking of awesome exotic quests, I'd be remiss if we didn't at least touch on this tonight. It's fairly new content. I'm not going to spoil the mechanics of it for anybody because I do know it's gonna be a little bit difficult for some people to go do this. Dual Destiny,
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot about this.
the secret exotic quest
Yeah.
in the Pale Heart. To unlock it, you have to do a full overthrow in each sector, and you have to go kill a mini boss afterwards. You have to go kill a taken mini boss afterwards.
Mhm.
Once you've done all 3, you'll have a beacon lit up on your in the world, and you go and you inspect it, and it's a flag. It's an adventure flag. You must to launch this. You must have one other person in your fire team. It will not work if you have 3. It will not work if you are solo. It is a duo mission. The best way I can describe this is think if Whisper of the Worms mission was a dungeon with actual raid mechanics.
With 2 people.
That is what this feels like. Um, Beyond who narrates the mission for you, I'm not going to spoil anything else about it. I urge everybody to go in blind to this, as blind as possible. It is a mission given to you by Savathun, basically saying, let's break the rules of light and dark together. And the result in the end is the exotic class item. It'll probably take about 40-45 minutes for your first clear. There are timers, and it's a little bit challenging if you're not familiar with raid encounters or raid mechanics. I don't think it's that bad. I actually found that the challenge was pretty fine. I think Dado nailed it when he said it's kind of on par with recent seasonal activities. I saw somebody say it's probably in comparison of difficulty to like the coil. Like if you were to 2-man coil, that's probably what it felt like
Oh, okay.
in terms of difficulty without darkness zones, no revive tokens, things like that. Um, However, if your timer runs out, you go back to orbit. So, in each section, there are sections you'll get to. Will reset your timer. I thought the timers were very generous. I ran it through with our friend Nerd. It was a blast. I loved it. It is, like I said, it is probably the best exotic quest they've ever done. Not in terms of story necessarily, but in terms of mechanics, in terms of reward, in terms of loot. I think it's the best exotic mission they've ever done. And it's really cool that the mission is repeatable as many times as you want to get as many drops of the class item as you want. Or you can go and just open chests and overthrows afterwards and have a random chance for them to drop.
So this the exotic class item, is that like does it have like anything specific? I kind of forget what we talked about when they revealed it.
I mean, yeah, it's the one that the exotic class items combine parts of multiple
Right.
exotic
You're right.
armor
Right.
pieces
Right. Right. Right.
from other classes.
Right.
So, yeah,
I forgot.
and it only works on prismatic. This is absolutely essential for prismatic builds,
Yeah.
is to go get as many of these as you can and start stashing them away.
Yep. Cool.
I've really enjoyed the couple that I've gotten so far. I've gotten 3 of them to drop. I did 1 in the mission, and I got two in about a 35-minute span in overthrows last night.
Nice.
So I do feel like the drop rate is fine. We don't need to be drowning in them. I'm drowning in Ergo sums. I don't need to be drowning in these 2.
But then you could have like I don't know all kinds of cool stuff, Josh. Ergo sums. Dual wielding. When's dual wielding coming to Destiny, Josh?
Hopefully never.
Remember that was such a cool idea for 5 minutes in Halo 2. And then everybody tried to do it, and then they took it out of Halo 3 because they're like, yeah, maybe not. Oh man, good times. Oh, Xbox 360. What a good time.
Yeah. So Dual Destiny, probably the best exotic quest they've ever done. Really, really strongly urge everyone to go in blind on the mechanics. But you will have to have a partner for it. I've seen some pushback on this. It seems like most of the community really loves this, but there's a lot of players who play solo who are very upset about it. All I will say is when you play the mission, it makes sense why you need two people.
Yeah.
Um, but also, like, this is a massively multiplayer online game.
Yeah.
Get over it? Question mark.
There's also a Fireteam Finder now in game. Or you can join the Discord. You can join the Tower Casuals Discord, and a bunch of people will play
It's
with you.
just like this is the hill y'all are gonna die on after all these years. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Like, okay, fine, sure. Like, personally, if I was designing it, I probably wouldn't have locked the exotic class item behind a mission like that. I actually probably would have put Ergo Sum behind this, frankly, instead. Um, or a weapon of some kind. I probably wouldn't have put the class items here. But they changed the kit in such a way that is so notable that I get it. Like, I get why they want you to go through this. And it's not, again, I don't think it's particularly a hard mission. It's just time consuming. Be prepared to set aside serious time. Once you've unlocked the mission, you can do it at any time. So you have to do all the overthrow stuff in one sitting. So set aside like an hour to go do overthrows. And then once you actually get to the mission, once the mission's actually unlocked, you can launch it from orbit at any time.
Cool.
So I think it's worth it. I think it's a really cool mission. Obviously, the class items are incredible. And I don't even have the best. I don't even know the best one yet, but I do have a couple of very good ones. I'm excited to talk about them. Going to be bringing rolls to the table next week along with Ergo Sums. Oh boy, I am so congested. Corey,
Yes.
let's talk about the future of Destiny a little bit.
The future is here, Josh.
So, not only did we get the final mission drop on Saturday morning for us, but they also announced that Monday morning there was going to be a live stream at 8 a.m. Pacific about the future of Destiny, about the immediate future,
Yep.
next year. I gotta say, man, these episodes sound really, really cool.
I know the one that we're in now is pretty cool, but like the next one, the Vampire Hunter Elixir one, it sounds really cool.
Yeah, let's go in order about what they talked about. It's about a 7.5 minute video. This kind of information is what people have been asking for years when it comes to the seasons and whatnot. Why don't you guys tease things in advance anymore? Like, the last time they really did this for us was coming out of Forsaken with Black Armory, with Joker's Wild, and with Season of Opulence, which at the time was known as Penumbra. Um, so we have three episodes: Echoes, Revenant, and Heresy. The goal of episodes is to build mysteries up and to tell standalone stories. The idea is that echoes have spread across the galaxy. Echoes are what they're calling those little things that shot out of the Traveler in the final cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
The first echo is on Nessus. It has fallen into the planet's core and has awoken the planet into something it shouldn't be. You get to work with Failsafe in a new 3-person activity. There seems to be somebody commanding the Vex in the really, really rad CG trailer they made. There are spoilers floating around for who that is, so we're not going to discuss that on here, but very excited to see it played out. The Vex very much need an expansion of some kind, and I mean, hey, this is kind of a good first step, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take it. Can't be upset. I'm with you though. I'm very excited about this second one, Revenant, which is described to be Fallen themed. The Fallen are still looking for a new home. You know, obviously they aren't going back to Reese, and they're aiming for dark fantasy here. You become what is called a Slayer Baron,
Just an
which is
awesome name.
like vampire hunting combined with splicer tech.
That's so cool, man.
So fucking cool. Fickrell is back. Fickrell is back, the leader of the Scorn. We know that Crow said he was going to go out and try and pick up his trail. It sure seems like a collision in the Tangled Shore is coming between Fickrell, Spider, and Mithrax. And did I mention that there's potion crafting in this episode?
I saw that and I'm like, what's going on here? Josh, what's going on? What's going on?
I mean, it's the seasonal gimmick. It's kind of like we got the deck of many things for Season of the Witch.
Well, I remember.
Um,
I remember.
so I'm very excited for this. This is filling my D&D fantasy to the max. I'm pretty sure that if Wrath of the Machine is coming to Destiny 2, it's happening here.
Yeah. That seems like the most likely place for it.
However, the keep that Fickrell is in seems like it's pretty well suited for a dungeon at the same time. So we'll have to see. We don't have any details on how they're going to balance dungeon and raid releases over the episodes. I would assume it's going to go dungeon, raid, dungeon. But I'd love to be wrong.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with being wrong.
I mean, since there's 3 episodes and not 4 seasons now, they really don't have to do it the way they've been doing it. They can just do it like, every.
Well, and not only that, but I think that the release structure of episodes, with there being 3 acts for each one, makes it to where now you can drop the dungeon or the raid partway through for narrative purposes, and you're not locked to doing it at the very beginning of a season.
Yeah.
You can actually tie it into the narrative more, especially if these are supposed to be standalone stories. We don't know yet if these are going to be playable beyond this year.
Mm-hmm.
My interpretation is that they will stay in the game past this year.
Yeah.
Because Nessus is fundamentally changing as a destination.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they said they wanted to put more focus on deciding what you want to do and what path you want to take. So I really like the idea for that. Heresy, we don't have as many details about. They're clearly still work in progress on this season, episode, whatever you want to call it. But it's going to be a story dealing with the Hive Pantheon. They want to shake up the snow globe, so to speak, and put the existing relationships through a stress test of sorts. So that means Xivu and Savathun are going to face off.
That seems interesting. That'd be cool to watch play out at some point. But
yeah, very interested. We're going back to the Dreadnought. That was outright confirmed. The Dreadnought is a location in this episode.
Yeah, and there's interesting changes coming apparently.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of decaying. It's kind of falling apart. It's been in disrepair since we killed Oryx 8 years ago.
Yeah, but they said something really interesting in this video, that it has like a bone like structure.
Well, I mean that's because the Dreadnought is made out of the carcass of a worm god. That's why there's a skeletal structure to it.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. That makes sense.
They're teasing it as a Fortress of Secrets. There's gonna be 2 armor sets this season, which I find really interesting. One is like, oh, you're one of Eris's squad. And then the other one is Hive Navigator bone armor, which I was like, okay, this looks really, really ridiculous in like the best way. It reminds me of the Skeleton Pirates from the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's pretty cool looking.
And they described the new activity as being very similar to the Coil. So I like all of that. I think the most intriguing part of this whole video, though, was the 20 seconds at the end when they tease Year 11.
Yeah.
2025, Codename Frontiers.
Yeah. I think we're leaving, right? I mean, that's clearly what it means, right? We're leaving?
I'm not going to say that, actually. I'm convinced that if we do that, it's going to be in an expansion. I don't think they're going to leave that for episodic content. We're going to do a little bit of speculation here on Frontiers because there's a number of different things this could mean. I think the first thing for us to jump to conclusions about is, oh, well, we're going to leave Sol. And we've predicted that so many times on this show. Satan Osiris, even in the opening cutscene of this episode, talk about leaving Sol, right?
Yeah.
and they talk about traveling. And I do still think it's going to happen, but I don't think it'll happen until the next big expansion.
Yeah.
Rather, what I think Frontiers is going to be about is unvaulting old content and unifying everything into Destiny and just dropping the two.
The big two, the as Luke Smith uh, said.
Because they talked about the future of Destiny. They did not talk about the future of Destiny 2
Yeah.
when they talked about this. Um, there are some golden opportunities coming up for them to revamp older content. We already know this season they're debuting new versions of Exodus Crash and Inverted Spire for the strikes.
Yeah.
It really looks like next season with Revenant, I'm going to keep calling them seasons. I don't fucking care. It looks like we're going back to the Tangled Shore.
To be fair, all the menus still say seasons, so.
It looks like we're going back to the Tangled Shore, and then, of course, the Dreadnought's coming back. That's being brought forward from D1. If you're bringing the Dreadnought back as a permanent destination, and that's the whole thing about like episodes, like, well, if they're all going to come back permanent, if that stuff's going to be in here permanently, then the Dreadnought's coming back permanently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it does, that opens up the door for like the Darkblade and there was one other one.
Yeah, the annoying one.
Shield Brothers.
Yeah.
Shield Brothers. It opens the door for both of those to come back.
Oh, man, you could do some interesting things with like Shield Brothers, like I don't know, you could do like Taken versions of it or whatever. Like
there's a lot of things you could do there.
One of them, it's gonna be like a prismatic version you watch. Like where you have to do the fist punching thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what they do here. All we can really do is speculate for right now. I don't think we're going to get any more details. Maybe they talk more about it at the 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
They always talk about what the next expansion is going to be in September. I'm actually at the point where I'm really hoping they don't have an expansion for 2025, and that's why they're calling it Frontiers.
Yeah.
I would rather them wait until early 2026 to have a new expansion and it be like the next real step in the journey of the Guardian, rather than, oh, we got to rush something out. Like, no, let them have 18 months to cook.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. Interesting.
Like, there's a lot of really interesting things coming. My cat is crying, and I don't know why.
I hear it.
He's very upset because I'm not stopping everything to pick him up. Just lay down there, dude.
Just bring the kitty up there.
No, he's underneath my. I can't get him underneath my desk. He's like underneath the cabinet, and doesn't want to come out. He just wants to play with my foot.
Oh.
All right, Corey. Let's get to some questions.
All right, questions.
Because my voice is fading fast. My nose is running like crazy. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Questions.
So I solicited some opinions over the last couple of weeks about what everybody thought about the final shape from our community. I asked for your best paragraph summaries. Y'all need to learn what paragraphs are, but want to read some of these thoughts. Nerd wrote in and says, I have a reputation for being passionately pessimistic about Bungie and Destiny. I promise it's only from a place of love. This time, this expansion, I can only say 10 out of 10 stuck the landing. Nothing negative to say. GG's. Hashtag 10 more years. I don't know if my body will survive another 10 years of this franchise, but Sammy writes in and says, this expansion is absolutely my favorite. Everything from the loot to the story. The campaign has a great pace, does amazing, and gives that overwhelming sense of dread and urgency I think Lightfall didn't do as well. From what I've seen of the raid, it looks excellent, brings that David versus Goliath feel. And the final mission, the mission, made me cry in the best way, and it's got me hyped more than anything else in this franchise. This one is definitively 10 out of 10 for me. I can't wait to see where they go with it next. Guardians make their own fate indeed.
Love it.
Tiger Jesus writes in, it was a solid 8 out of 10 until the last mission. I've never had an out-of-body experience playing video games before until the last mission. Now it's an 11 out of 10, and I can't wait to see what Bungie does next.
Yeah. That last mission does a lot of...
it does some heavy lifting.
It's pretty good.
Zhao writes in and says this one, as we all knew, was the one expansion Bungie had to get right, and they did it. With all the nonsense that's happened and the pressure they had, they did it. The story, down to the writing, level design, and pacing, is amazing, and the nostalgia hits hard. The final mission was exactly what I wanted them to do. Gave me the endgame and Infinity War feeling with everyone coming together. 10 out of 10. And last but not least, Jiggly Panda writes in, this has to be the greatest DLC Bungie could have ever produced. The story was perfect. The characters felt affected just like we did. I love how Crow and Cade's relationship grew and was amazing to see. I love the Strand sidearm you get. 10 out of 10. Can't wait for more from Bungie.
I I love Crow and Cade's relationship in this. I also like the nod that Cade said the kid needs a haircut, and then at the end he has a new haircut. I know that's dumb, but it made me laugh.
Listen, we all like Crow's haircut, okay?
I mean, his new one or his old one?
Both.
Hmm, I don't know, but
As Ghost says, we all like Crow's haircut.
I mean, yeah, Ghost is yeah. It's okay to be wrong sometimes, I guess.
All right. We have a lot of questions this week. Oh boy. All right. Dealer writes in, as we entered the Traveler, we fought the Witness. What is the reason for every enemy in the raid except for the Vex? Not sure if there's a lore-wise reason or not, but if there isn't, what's your theory? I think it's because the Vex are otherwise just kind of busy. They are there in the final mission, it should be noted. They are one of the factions that can show up for you to fight during Excision.
Mm-hmm.
My belief is that the Soul Divisive just kind of don't give a shit about the Witness's mission anymore.
Yeah.
They are there in the campaign periodically, but they are just very clearly they don't really care about his mission.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole purpose was to recreate the Veil, and that was what the Black Heart of the Black Garden was. Um, and yeah, it just I think Wish kind of like puts the stamp on that they don't really care about his mission anymore. He was a means to an end for them, really.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of probably hundreds of simulations they had, and they probably had a simulation in which we succeeded.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what you're getting out of Echoes.
Yeah. It's Echoes is weird, man. I mean, like it's in a good way. It's like seeing the Vex kind of go nuts.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's quite a lore reason for them not showing up. That's my personal speculation. I need to read the lore of the raid. Not that I think it'll answer that question at all, and I suspect we're going to get more information in Echoes as to why they aren't there. But
Yeah.
Yellow Kuru writes in, much to my disdain, with the reveal of the next episode's theme and how they're pretty much doing a crossover armor per season, do you think we will ever get Bloodborne themed stuff in Eververse? And Sony owns the rights to that. I mean, after getting Dungeons and Dragons, I'm going to say never. But I don't think that of all the collabs that they could do, I don't think Bloodborne is going to be the one that they do.
Yeah.
If anything, it'll be another PS All Stars crossover where
We're gonna
Bloodborne
get
is like for
Astrobot.
warlocks. Oh my god, dude! If they do fucking Astrobot, I'm leaving. I think the most you would get is maybe a Bloodborne set for hunters, or not for hunters, for warlocks.
Yeah. I mean, you could do like a Demon Souls and Bloodborne thing because I could.
I just don't think they're gonna do. I just don't think
Oh,
they're
I
gonna
don't
do it.
think they are either. But I'm saying if you're gonna do something,
I think that is how do I phrase this? So, yes, Sony owns the IP rights to it. They would still need From's cooperation, I believe, on it.
yeah, he just did an interview. Some information just came out about that today, I think.
Oh God, I
About
just can't
him
wait
wanting,
for
he
that.
said he's not allowed to comment on a PC version, but he said all I can say is this: I want everybody to be able to experience the games I make, or something.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get a From crossover
I
necessarily.
really don't either.
I think your best hope is for another PlayStation crossover in a couple years. Maybe Bloodborne. I don't know. I'd have to think of two other properties: Bloodborne and Killzone, something else. I don't know.
Resistance.
Probably Helldivers at this point. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. maybe at most you get like a ghost.
With a hunter hat.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't want to say never, but when I look at the games they've done crossovers with, Fortnite, Assassin's Creed, the PlayStation properties,
The Witcher.
The Witcher, Mass Effect, and now, I mean, Dungeons and Dragons technically isn't a video game, but we're going to count the indie as a game. Those are all like mega properties. Bloodborne is very niche compared to those. I know it has a devout following, and I know people are going to be mad at me for saying that. If they were ever going to try to cross over with a From property, it's probably going to be Elden Ring. I'm going to be totally honest.
Yeah. Because
So,
they announced what yesterday? They sold 25 million copies or something.
yes, and that's before Shadow of the Erdtree comes out.
Yeah.
So,
yikes.
Yikers indeed. So not trying to piss in anybody's Cheerios, but I don't think that a Bloodborne collab is going to happen. The only way it's going to happen is if there's a new game that comes out in the series. Jiggly Panda writes in, how are y'all feeling about the raid? Do you like it wasn't a laughing stock on Ron? Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that I have. Here's the problem I have with when people say Ron was a laughing stock. Yes, it's the easiest day one raid that there's ever been. One, partially due to the power creep that we had at that point in time. Two, you had volatile on everything. But three, doing a day one raid regardless is still a challenge. That is the hardest version of the raid you will ever encounter. It is still not a walk in the park to do it. But I do like that this was so brutally difficult. I think it's perfectly on par for it to be the last raid and it be one of the least completed contest raids ever. If we're going by 24-hour completions, it is the least completed in 24 hours. I think that's pretty fascinating.
I think it's cool. I think it's great.
I do like it. I do think, and this is partially why I argue that contest should always be a selectable difficulty, because people are like, oh, well, that was an easy one. Great, you get in there and do it then, buddy.
Yeah.
So, Nadiki writes in, what do you think Codename Frontiers means? Is it another chapter of Destiny 2 or an eventual Destiny 3? I don't think they're not teasing Destiny 3 for next year. They're just not.
No.
If Destiny 3 comes out next year, first of all, I think it's just an egregious move by Bungie.
Yeah, they're messing up.
They have, with the introduction of Prismatic and these exotic class items and shit, yes, I know, they're going full tilt, break the game. I think part of that was because if this didn't land, they wanted to at least go out doing something fun.
Yeah.
I don't think you're getting Destiny 3 next year. I'm going to rain on everyone's parade. I don't think you're getting a Destiny 3, period. I do think that come 2026, you're getting a massive overhaul to the game. That's probably your next big expansion. That's probably back-end updates. Maybe it's the termination of last generation support.
God, I hope so. No offense.
But, I mean, hey, if you're still making a ton of money off of those, like, we found out that's why Call of Duty and Madden and them keep putting stuff out on last gen, is because over half their users haven't switched.
Which is, I guess, like, if that's all you play and that's all I understand that there's people that aren't, like, stingy people about frame rate and stuff, but, man, that's kind of
most of them play on the Nintendo Switch.
That's kind of surprising this far into a generation, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah. Ought to be interesting at the very least. Yeah. Cade wrote in and asks, do you think I come back again somehow, some way? Also, do you think they should rename the ramen shop in the tower after me? The Traveler's Ramen is a little light on the spices. Buddy, I think you're gone. I think we'll still get visions of Cade in the future. I'd be very surprised if there weren't audio logs for us to find from Nathan Fillion.
Would have been really funny or cute or whatever is if you got like a ghost with Cade's hood on it or something.
I would have enjoyed that. Yeah. Considering Hunters already have his cloak, I would have enjoyed that.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
But no, Cade, I think that you're gone.
Yep.
I think you're gone for good.
Yeah.
Zhao writes in, if you had to pick only one moment from the Final Shape campaign that gave you the most emotion or enjoyment, what would it be?
I mean, does the last mission count? I mean,
I think the last mission definitely counts for enjoyment. As far as emotion, for me, it's the death of Targe.
yeah, I
For a character that we really didn't know much about, and obviously we hadn't spent time,
mhm,
he still defied the witness. And I think it's more of the it's less the death of Targe and more that you're realizing that Zavala is now lightless.
mhm,
It's like, oh shit, Commander Zavala is lightless.
yeah. Um,
I'm also really glad that you phrased this as the campaign because my pick would have been Still Hunt, just all of Still Hunt.
yeah, yeah, the whole Zavala thing is pretty. Yeah, that's cool. I still love the interactions between Cade and Crow. Like, even
Yeah,
aside from that, like even aside from the side mission where like you do all those things and he gives Crow the cloak, right? Like I still think that that's my favorite part of the entire campaign in terms of the character interactions. Um, I think I would pick that.
yeah.
I love their friendship. I love it, especially because of everything we've been through with both of them.
I love that Cade has a second of hesitation the first night that he meets Crow
Hmm.
and thinks about killing him in his sleep.
Yeah, we had that. We read that lore what last week.
Yeah, and then reminds himself that no, this isn't Uldren, this is Crow. And from that point forward, all we ever see in the game is him really training this dude to be the new Hunter Vanguard.
Hmm.
I love it. So
And I love at the end when like they're lighting the lanterns and they said it doesn't feel like a celebration without Cade or whatever. And Crow takes the leadership role and is just like maybe it's because we haven't celebrated yet, and then he lights the first lantern, which I think is a really nice touch.
I agree.
Uh, yeah,
I agree.
I really like that too.
Nerd writes in and asks, "Do you think Golden Gun will get a nerf, seeing as though it's officially become a requirement to have 4+ hunters for boss damage in contest mode raids now?" Fun fact: hunters made up 60% of all contest mode completions. I'm gonna say for right now, I don't think it's gonna get a nerf, and I think that's because they want to see how Prismatic plays out first.
Yeah,
But the fact that they gave us Golden Gun on Prismatic definitely still makes it the best choice. You can get like 1.3 mil damage going just off your super alone
yeah,
if you have the right class item now.
yeah.
Um,
Plus, like that sniper rifle has golden gun on it too, right?
well, and I mean that's completely separate, but yeah, if you add that into Dealer actually chimed in on this, and I'm really glad he did because he's if I'm gonna talk to somebody about raid DPS, he's who I want to talk to. I want to jump in on this and say 4 to 5 Golden Gun Hunters with Cade's rifle was the easiest way to hit damage. Other methods were still viable; they just didn't do as well. Uh, they almost had a 2 phase on contest that way.
Dang.
So that being said, to be doing all of that damage, you also have to build your build specifically around it. And I don't think that most people are optimizing their builds that way. I will say that it was definitely worth it to do that in Pantheon to have multiple hunters. But with the death of Well, I understand why that's where everybody went. Should also note that it hasn't been the meta for any contest raid outside of this one.
Hmm.
This has very much been a last 6 to 9 month development.
Hmm.
There's a reason why they increased on Star Eaters how many orbs you have to pick up to activate its full power. And that being said, I want to see what the next dungeon or raid boss looks like before I start screaming, "Yeah, we need a nerf." I think it's less that you need a nerf and more of folks are trying to figure out how to make the other two classes viable
Yeah.
in this because there were only 3 or 4 Titan completions, I think, on contest.
Dang, jeez.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. None of your supers are gonna be able to hit the witness.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's.
You're basically using your super for ad clear at that point, or to hit a mini boss.
Yeah.
Um, and then warlocks. I mean, folks were popping wells just to get like that radiance and get like a little bit of an overshield, but that was about it. Golden Gun, I think it's less about like, oh yeah, it's because it's the best option, and because it's a okay, fire your shot and then get your still hunt shots off and move on with life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I find it very funny that we're back to the conversation we were having during Vault of Glass all those years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still using fucking Celestial Nighthawk. I started out with it, I have to end with it.
It's all about nostalgia and bringing it all back together, Josh.
It's terrible. I'm so fucking tired of Celestial Nighthawk. Um, how Mega Pop Tart writes in and asks, "How do you feel about the future of Destiny coming out of the final shape? Are you excited, and do you have a renewed faith in Bungie?" Uh, yes.
Yeah,
um, I feel great about Destiny coming out of this. I for about the last 9 months really thought this was going to be my jumping off point.
yeah. I mean, we've talked about it multiple times.
Into the Light really saved Destiny for me in a lot of ways. And it started with those live streams they did in early March.
Yeah,
And then, Into the Light comes out. I thought it was a really great thing. Just as I was starting to get tired of Onslaught, they come out with Pantheon. It was just enough to keep me engaged. And now there's the final shape. And I'm not saying I'm gonna play this game like relentlessly again, right?
mm-hmm.
These acts are 6 weeks long for episodes. I'll dip at some point and then come back to finish things up.
Yeah,
I will take little breaks, but I think them breaking these up makes it a little bit easier to take breaks as well.
yeah,
Like this fall, I'm going to take several big breaks to play some of the bigger games coming out. I want to play through Avowed. I want to play through Indiana Jones. I'm still gearing up to play my first run of Baldur's.
mm-hmm.
Hades 2. Like, there's so many things coming out I want to play, and it makes it easier to step away from the game then.
Yeah.
Do you have renewed faith in Bungie? I do. I don't think the faith in Bungie was lost, as in the people at Bungie. It was the C-suite, the leadership, and the executive board.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm with you. I my I never questioned the developer's heart in this game because clearly there's a lot of love for Destiny at that studio, right? Clearly. Even people who aren't there anymore, right, are still like they still love Destiny, right? And like yeah, this I have faith in the developers. It's the C-suite issue still, right? So uh I don't know if I have anything else more constructive to say, but that's where I'm at.
I would agree. I would agree with that. All right, Jiggly Panda writes in, just out of curiosity, when did we get a rank system for clans like we have for strikes and other activities? Have y'all noticed this yet? Yes, we actually went over this a few weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, very quickly. But they did announce that Hawthorne was going to get an upgrade. I was actually a little shocked when I opened it. I had forgotten about it
Yeah,
because we got such a massive information dump over the last couple of weeks.
yeah,
But yeah, no, we knew this was coming. They told us ahead of time. The more intriguing one was waiting for Xur,
hmm.
because they didn't tell us about Xur. They just let us figure it out in game.
Yeah. That
We
was
knew a
weird.
change was coming, but
I was like, what's going on over here? Zur,
yeah, he's now permanently in the tower
yeah,
behind the ramen shop.
yeah.
And our last question of the night comes to us from Tiger Jesus, who writes in, "How would you like for Prismatic to evolve throughout the episodes?" Oh man, I'm gonna give you a really unpopular opinion. I don't want it to evolve during the episodes.
Yeah, I kind of like how aggressive it is. I because like especially for Titans, there's no I don't think there's anything for Warlocks either. I haven't really played around with it, but like there's no like you can't pop a bubble on a Titan with Prismatic. It's not part of your arsenal. It's all aggressive stuff. It's not like, you know, no support character there. I mean, you can make a support character, but you know what I mean. There's no bubble. There's no. It's all very aggressive, and so I kind of like that because your light classes still exist if you need to play that class, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you, Josh. I like it. I like how aggressive it is. It's forced me to learn how to play the game differently. Um, because, as you know, Josh, I am the clan's resident Bubble Titan and have been for, I don't know, 9.5 years. So, you know, it's forced me to learn how to play the game a little bit differently, and I think that's made me enjoy it more, to be honest. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So the reason why I say that I don't really want them to change anything up right away is I think Prismatic actually came out in a really, really good place. If anything, I would like to see an option to let us maybe swap the new super out for another super. But I don't want Prismatic to become the only thing.
Yeah.
I think that becomes too unbalanced. Um that is my only gripe about the Hunter kit is yes, we have the grapple, but we lose a grenade as a result. I would love the option to have a healing nade
Yeah.
for one. Instead of I think the most that you might see is maybe another grenade choice for each class. Um, or for each element, maybe another grenade option.
Yeah.
Um, maybe a few more fragments get added, but I feel like that can be part of your deal with Frontiers.
Yeah.
Or even with like Heresy, because like, oh, okay, we've been going for like 8 months. Let's drop some new fragments in there for them. We just
Yeah.
saw after all these years, hey, 2 new fragments for each stasis class. I imagine I'll do that with Strand next.
Yeah.
And we've obviously seen him do it with the other 3 in the past. So I think they'll probably follow a very similar pattern here. Like you said, there's still the original subclasses for you to go use if you want to use that whole kit.
Yeah.
But I think if anything, you'll see some tunings. They got to make sure this doesn't totally break the game first, because
Yeah.
let me tell you something. Trials is going to be live this weekend, and it's going to be a shit show. Trials is going to be a shit show. Iron Banner is going to be a shit show when it comes back.
I
I'm
got
interested to see how it all plays, but oh boy,
That's going to be
oh boy,
interesting. Trials is going to be the interesting one, right? I
yeah, I'm
can't wait to see
very.
how many people complain about that.
I can't wait either. I think it's going to be fascinating.
Oh man, good times. Good times.
And that does it for our questions tonight, Corey.
That does it. Oh man.
That does it. I think that's going to do it for this episode too.
Ooh.
I have no lore corner tonight. I
Yeah.
simply have not planned one for this week yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair, right? I mean, there was a lot going on this week. Let's be honest. So
There is a lot going on, and I gotta
Josh
read it.
doesn't feel good
So
either. So
no, that's part of the other reason why I'm after an hour and 45. I am running on fumes. My nose has been running for like an hour.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
my fever, I think, is starting to break. So yes, I'm going to bed as soon as we get done with this.
Yeah. So I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of Tower Casuals. Hope everyone's enjoying the final shape and echoes. We'll talk about all that stuff over the coming weeks. Josh, I appreciate your time as always. Where can we find you?
Oh, Twitter at Josh_Finn 2 N's.
Yeah. You can also find him in bed soon because he's dying.
Yes.
I feel really bad, man. You can find me at I am Corey HD on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us at Tower Casuals. Check out Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast we do every other week, where we covered the Xbox Showcase and Summer Game Fest and all that stuff. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.